Nosferatu. Okay, so this video is a little different than I usually make, not just because I'm talking about pop culture, but because I don't have a script. So this is coming truly from my heart and just how much I loved the movie. So just, a heads up, there might be spoilers in here. So if you haven't seen the movie and you plan on seeing it, don't watch this video until later. So I'll admit, I'm not a big vampire fan. That's not my favorite mythological creature. It never really hit home for me. I'm not a fan of like Blue Bloods or Twilight or anything like that, but I really loved this because the vampire was creepy. And just the style of the movie too, it made me feel like I was really there experiencing this very sad life for this woman, and the mystery of the world was present. One thing that has really impressed me with Robert Eggers is his accuracy and depiction of the occult. It's not Harry Potter-like, it's not super fantastical, it's very grounded in reality, and that is so intriguing. Now, they weren't all 100% accurate, and some of it was made up, but the atmosphere and the reverence was there, and that was so cool. But I think at the heart of it, one of the reasons that I love this movie so much is because it displays a path that's not talked about very often, and that is the female outsider. Obviously, my favorite part of the movie was when von Franz turns to Ellen and says, "You would have been a cherished priestess of Isis." And that for me just like it hit right. Like being a priestess is a path that isn't talked about very much in our modern world. In fact, the priest craft in general really isn't talked about very much because of the adversity that is had towards organized religion for very valid reasons. But the whole Nosferatu movie is all based on a woman who has powers that don't fit into the modern world. She's misunderstood as melancholic and depressed, which is sometimes true of occult practitioners. But going back to like how she felt, like I completely understand like trying to find something in this world to resonate with. And I think that is something that fueled my personal journey too, that understanding for truth, the understanding of the divine creator. I understand why she called out for anything to talk to her. And instead of an angel, she got a vampire. I don't recommend that you randomly call out blindly to whatever is around you because you might not know what's around you. So if you are interested in talking to spirits, I recommend learning how to properly cast a circle, learning how to protect yourself from spirits. If you're interested in learning how to do something like that, you want to check out Pythian Mystery School, specifically the Blue Lotus Coven. So one of the things I want to look at is the seal, the vampire seal. So I'm going to pop it up on the screen, and I have it up on my phone. So the seal that you see here is first we see like kind of an Ouroboros. That's usually the snake eating itself. Here we see, it looks like two dogs dog snakes eating their tails. So we see some illusion there. We see what looks like the earth alchemical symbol in the middle of what I think is the 7-rayed star. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. This is a heptagram or a 7-rayed star. There's many different meanings behind it, but one of the simpler ones is that it represents the 7 planets that make up our universe. So looking at this sigil or this seal, a lot of it, it doesn't look like any language that I really recognize. There's some English. We see an MONC, maybe a G. I'm going to run it through Google Translate. I don't think Google Translate does Enochian, but I don't see any Enochian symbols on here. All right, let's see what happens. So it says and. Okay, great. I also have my little book here of magical alphabets. I'm going to run through it real quick. None of those, they don't look like any real runes. Oh, it's interesting. Maybe there's something in here. Maybe, kind of. No. Not really Greek either. No. Now we're going to look at medieval Hebrew. No. And there's definitely no Hebrew on here.
I had a breakthrough while editing this project. I realized that the whole vampire story was based in Romania, so it had to be some kind of Romanian alphabet, and I finally found it. Romanian Cyrillic alphabet. I don't know what it says, but I found it.
We can see that there's a huge influence from the Ars Goetia as well as Cornelius Agrippa. So this is the book that von Franz has been learning from. Now, to correct myself, there's actually 3 books in this one book. This is Cornelius Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, and this was written in the early 1600s. It's all based in Western esotericism. And this is a very dense work. It is not for like the faint of heart. So here's some like of the planetary seals. Some of the planetary seals, there's lots of different kinds. These are humanized or anthropomorphized. And so here's an example of some planetary seals. You may recognize this one here. This is the planetary sigil of the moon that I use for the Mystic Moon Circle when I host it. The other thing that I really enjoyed from an occult perspective was von Franz in general. So first of all, I absolutely adore Willem Dafoe. He's an incredible actor, and he really brought to life kind of the eccentricities of being an occultist. You are a little bit of a weirdo, and you're very overly passionate about some things, and that really did come through. And I was, for my research, watching a lot of the interviews where Willem said that some people thought he was overdone. But if you know anyone who's really into the occult, we're all a little bit overdone. So, Willem, if you ever see this, please know that you did a good job representing us. Defoe plays a character whom was added to the original version of the story. When we look at the name Albert Eberhard von Franz, we realize that there are real-life people who influence this character, because von Franz sounds a lot like Van Helsing, but it's even deeper than that. The first part is Albin, I think it's Grau. This was a producer on the set of the original Nosferatu who was initiated into some practices. Marco Visconti goes over that in his Substack. So I'm not going to go through all of Marco's writings because you should go check it out for yourself. But I did want to point out the picture that he found. That was great. So this is Albin. And then here's the initiated photo, which is super cool. I'm not going to get into all the details, but I really think you should go check out his article. I'll link it below in the description. And then what I remembered or recognized was Marie-Louise von Franz. She was a very famous Jungian psychologist in the 20th century. So we see that there's leaning both in a psychological aspect as well as the occult, which do touch each other. And then he even says here that he was thinking of the producer, which is super cool to see the director actually acknowledge that. So I wonder if von Franz in the movie, it seemed like he knew that this story had to play out this way, that like we saw that book, right? There's some book that like says it has to end this way. It's the way the fairy tale ends. And as dark as that is, like there has to be this dark kind of fairy tale. And it's one of self-sacrifice, which is beautiful and so moving. And I absolutely 110% believe that Robert Eggers is some kind of occult scholar. I dug and dug trying to figure out if he's trained in anything. But I only found this Reddit article that we're going to take a look at. So I found this particular Reddit page, and yes, here it is. The witch is hitting a moment when witchcraft and Satanism are making a big comeback. Do you have any thoughts on why this stuff is hitting the culture again? My answer will make me sound like a new age crystal worshipping weirdo, so I can't really get into it. That is very interesting. That makes me think maybe there's something more that's going on in his life. Maybe he's serving a greater purpose, which I think is very cool. And I think it was in this one as well where he talks about it. Yes. So he talks about being from New England, and he did a lot of witchy research on his own. But without sounding like a new age crystal worshiper, you can feel something out there in these old dilapidated colonial farms and hidden graveyards in the middle of the pine forest. So I think this person is very in tune. I think that he is aware of the other side, if not had some kind of contact with it. And of course, that's his private life. No one should ever make you talk about that if you don't want to. I know other people who've grown up in New England who have had this same kind of relationship to the occult. Like, it's just present there. It's very present in the culture. It's present in the land. And so it's interesting here. He says he has a conflicted relationship between religion, mythology, and the occult. People don't talk like that anymore, not really. And for him to openly say that is cool, because all of those things do work together, and it takes a lot of internal work and reading and processing and questioning to get to a place where it makes sense for you. It's part of the journey. This is an interesting thing. A lot of stuff seems to have come back in fashion, like studying the occult and being interested in the past. It's true. And I think a part of the reason why people are relating to this movie is that it's like an artisanal hipster beeping horror movie or whatever. And I think that's a little bit demeaning to yourself, Robert. I don't think it's like that. I think you really hit on something cultural here that brings people back in tune with what has been lost. There was one particular quote that Robert Eggers said in his interview with what's his name? Tom Power, which is a great interview. I highly recommend watching it. Robert says he has a yearning for a world where there is more sacred and less profane. And I think that's really beautiful. I think I share that as well. I think that there's something beautiful of the mysteries of the world. And it doesn't have to be nefarious, right? Like, it's not like about conspiracy theories or anything like that. It's about the wonderment of the world. Seeing the world through the eyes of the child. I mean, you go out to a beautiful location and you take a picture and you upload it on Instagram and you wait for the likes. Are you enjoying the nature? I'm sure people will say, well, can't I do both? Of course you can do both. But what about just the raw experience? Can you imagine what it's like just to appreciate beauty in and of itself without the extra gratification of the Instagram likes? I think that we saw the world differently before social media. Literally saw it differently. And getting to see Nosferatu felt like a gift. Even though it was a little dark and scary and a little bit gross, it brought back some amazing wonderment and mystery into the world. So overall, I thought Nosferatu was a wonderful movie. Definitely 95 plus in my book. And it's one I will definitely watch again and again. What are some other occult horror movies that you've enjoyed? Let me know down below in the comments. And until next time, mystics, stay magical.